You're listening to Happy Healthy Hormones with Dr. Chris. Are you tired of the short-term patch to your health problems? Is avoiding medications and surgeries important to you? If you answered yes, then your prayers have been answered. Dr. Chris has been helping people transform their health for over a decade. He's a world-renowned health expert who specializes in holistic health. He's a professional speaker, chiropractor, and international best-selling author. It's his mission to help you reach your full God-given potential through holistic health and healing. Get ready to be inspired and transformed. Here's your host, Dr. Chris.
Hello there, everyone, and you are listening to the show where disease comes to take a dive and where people come to thrive. Because when I take you on this journey to restore your health, we're just not talking about, hey, what can we do to make you feel better? There's a lot of things I can do to make you feel better. I could give you $1 million. I'd probably make you temporarily feel better. I could give you a shot of morphine, and that would probably temporarily make you feel better. Or there are a lot of things we can do to make ourselves temporarily feel better. But I'm talking about taking you to a higher level of health. I'm talking about restoring your body's ability to heal. And that's really what this show is all about, is about allowing you to get back to the roots of how God created our bodies to heal, repair, and to thrive. And I feel a lot of times we just kind of lost touch at that. You know, in our culture, our culture in America, we're really good at managing sick care, but we really fall short when it comes to true health care and preventing disease and sickness. And so I'm going to boldly step out today and help you change the way you view and manage your health. And my goal during these few minutes I have with you is not to transform your health 180 degrees. Hey, if that happens, amazing. But we probably don't have enough time for that in one segment. But rather, my goal is to just shift the direction your health is headed by maybe just 10 or 15 degrees. Getting you starting to take some new action steps, creating some new habits in your life so that you can actually change the outcome and not just keep sitting there and saying, wow, woe is me. I wish things would change. I wish I could lose more weight. I wish that I didn't have to be on these medications. I wish I could get back to walking again, but this is probably not going to be me. Or I've tried this and tried that, but you really didn't try it. You just gave it a little test drive and didn't actually buy into it, right? And that's the difference. So today I want to help you create some changes, create some habits. And if you ever want to do something different, if you want a different outcome in your life, you've got to start by changing the habits that you have. And it's not always easy, and it's not always the most convenient thing to do, and it's not always the most popular thing to do, but it is the right thing to do if you really want to make a change. So today we're going to be talking about toxins. I'm going to be talking about the top 5 toxins causing the most damage in your body. And most people don't understand what a toxin is, but it is any chemical, any substance or mixture that does harm to the body. Typically, it's produced by a living thing. Example, humans, right? We create more toxins than any other living thing out there in the world. But the fact is that things like medicine are just toxins. So if you believe that you can be at your healthiest by taking more medications, you have been fooled. Because all as a medication is a toxin. If we give ourselves a little bit of toxin, hey, it might take away a symptom here, but it's going to pop up in 3 other places as something else. And so you can't fool the body. You just can't do it. But the longer you do it, the more long-term side effects you're going to have, the more misery you're going to have, the more pain. And sometimes we've been brainwashed so much, or other people in our lives have been brainwashed so much that they can't see the other side. They can't see the light. And they just keep going down. And anything else you tell them, it's just too much for them to handle and too much for them to process. And they're the people that, you're trying to get to eat healthier foods. You're trying to get them to exercise. You're trying to get them to, switch out some of their medications for some supplements. And they just won't do it. They think you're crazy. Or you want them to go to the chiropractor and they just won't do it because they just can't get their mind around how that would help them. And, that's sad, but it doesn't mean that you can't continue to make changes in your own life. Try to surround yourself with more people, because one of the biggest toxins I see is the toxin that we get between our ears. Yeah, that's right. The toxin we get from the stinking thinking, from the naysayers. It just create that doubt in our mind and our own body's ability to heal and our own thought process and our own instincts. So let's get into it. Now, there are differences between man-made and natural toxins, right? Natural ones are from things like poisonous snakes and frogs, berries, mushrooms, you name it, versus the man-made ones like the household products, the medications, right? The pharmaceutical things we put on our body for beauty purposes. But where do they come from, right? Where are we getting the most toxins right now? Well, we get a lot of toxins from cleaners, right? Things we get around the house. Metals, like metal fillings that we put in our teeth, right? It's crazy. But we get them from other sources as well. There's personal products. So how many personal products do you put on today, right? The average American woman puts on about 10 to 12. Guys, you aren't too far behind. But were those products organic, free of phthalates and parabens and fragrances that create cancer, or were they just riddled with those things, right? And then the foods that we eat, man, if you shop in between the aisles of the grocery store, you are probably filling yourself with tons of toxicity from the preservatives and the food additives. Even the furniture you're sitting on can have toxicity. I mean, you're talking about flame retardants, huge cancer causers there, and then even paints, you name it. The list can go on. But then we look at medications, right? We talked about that. That's probably one of the biggest sources I see right now with toxicity. In fact, out of the whole world, the United States consumes over 50% of the world's medications, and that's a really conservative number. I've seen it as high as like 70 to 80%. However, we only make up less than 5% of the population of the earth, right? And we're sicker than ever. But we're made to think that they help, but in the end, they just make us more sick. And then we look at also pesticides, herbicides, chlorine, fluorine, biotoxins. I mean, we are just bombarded by things. So don't think you're just, it's hopeless. You can't get out of it. You're just screwed whether you do or whether you don't. No, that's a defeatist mentality, and we are not defeatists here. We are winners. We are accomplishers. We get things done, right? And so what we want to do is we just want to say, okay, what can we do to minimize that toxic load? Right? What can we do to minimize that? We can't get rid of it all, but there's some major things you can do in your life right now that can help you with that. So what are the symptoms of being toxic? Well, the symptoms are pretty overwhelming. I mean, one of the big ones, obviously, organ system failure, liver, colon, kidneys. Those are things that filter out toxins when we come across them. So the liver is like a sponge. It's just pulling in everything, just trying to help you out, but that can get weakened. There's the colon. But if we're not having regular bowel movements, then we're getting built up toxins, because that's one of the ways that our body eliminates that from that toxic reoccurring and building up. And then obviously the kidneys, which is filtering the system with our, the blood of our bodies. And so that's another source we're going to find it in. But the symptoms can include things that maybe aren't that noticeable. Maybe they don't seem like they're that big a deal. Things like bad breath, acne, lack of energy, constipation, inflammation. Get more severe that, fibromyalgia, mental fog, decreased libido, poor circulation, that nausea feeling, or like you're not hungry. Food sensitivity is another one. And then weight gain and headaches and migraines. So let's look at some of the most dangerous toxins right now. Number one, medication. So Medical News Today shows that 4.02 billion, so over 4 billion prescriptions were filled. 13 prescription drugs per person in the U.S. is what someone's taking. I mean, that is crazy. So if you're not taking one, I mean, someone's taking a heck of a lot more than 13, but that's the averages, right? So when we look at this, I mean, we are a medical-driven community. We are a pill-taking culture, and it's just, I mean, our health is getting worse and worse, and the fact is, it's the system's fault. We were talking about the war on opioid drugs and everything else, and the fact is, although those doctors prescribe those medications, they're not usually bad people. It's just because they're in the system, and that's what they are allowed to give. That's what they know is medications. So what's it really worth to you? I look at the story of one of my patients, John. He was on all kinds of medication. I think he was on like 6 different medications, from depression meds to heart stuff. And we just started to apply some of the basic health principles, function, food, fitness, filter, freedom. And he was able to get off his medications. He lost weight. He got his GI system started to improve. He wasn't having the constipation and things that he was having. And it saved his marriage, right? Because he was just a cranky person, not happy to be around because he was so miserable. He took back control of his health. And when you understand this, it's tough to understand if you haven't experienced it, but when you lose your health, it doesn't affect you. It affects everyone around you. We look at number 2, pesticides and herbicides. Control the food, right? You control the food, you control the people. That was a quote from Monsanto, right? With the number 1 chemical company in the United States. So there's things like glyphosates, which there's Roundup. That's in Roundup. It's crazy. It just creates all kinds of GI problems and known to be a cancer-causing agent. And it just affects a lot of different immune system properties, the gut, inflammation, food tolerances as well. Even a link to autism with this also. But you got to understand, when our toxicity bucket starts to overflow, then that becomes a problem. See, you got to think of our cells like a bucket with holes in it. And when we get toxins out, toxins are able to flow out through the holes. But the more and more that gets built up and toxins come in, the body can't process it fast enough. And then the bucket starts to overflow. And that's when we start to have the symptoms. We look at our water, chlorine and fluorine. EPA says that the cancer risk in people that drink chlorinated water have a 93% higher risk of cancer, headaches, fertility, heart disease. I mean, it comes in our products, it comes in our food and our air. And then we look at heavy metals as well. The water source, mercury, aluminum, cadmium, and then biotoxins, limes, molds, bacterial things from root canals is a big one. So how do you fix it? How do you know if you're toxic? Well, you have to be tested. You have to do the right type of testing. Things like meta-oxy testing, where you test the body for cellular inflammation, big indicator. Things like a VCS test, which is a visual test, because when you're toxic, your oxygen intake to your brain gets affected. It starts to affect your contrast and sensitivity in your eyesight. So one example of that is just the fact that if you can't drive at night very well, you can't see that. But there's other indicators. You got to do a test to see what level of that there is. And then you also got to look at really what systems it's affecting as well, figuring out how severe it is, how much is in your body, so you can figure out how long it's going to take to get out of your system as well. But again, if you're not doing that and you're just doing cleanses and things over the counter and multi-level marketing things, I mean, nothing against those, but it's just not really getting the toxins out, and it's not getting the deep stuff, the stuff that's affecting your brain. Because if you can't get past the blood-brain barrier, then you're just going to continue to have more and more symptoms, can continue to break down your body. So with that said, I mean, just understand that you are in control of your body and that you need no help healing. We just got to make sure we're removing those interferences from that God-given potential. Take care.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please help more people in reaching their fullest potential and rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. For show notes and other free resources we mentioned today, go to newedgewellness.com.